Good morning and good afternoon. Super pumped about today's webinar. I just got the last count a couple minutes ago. We have about 2 or 3 shy of 200 RSVPs between LinkedIn event page as well as that of Zoom. So super excited. We'll give everyone just a moment to appreciate everyone. For those of you that have been on our webinars before, many thanks for coming back. And for those of you that this is your first time, thank you for spending a few minutes of your time with us. The whole purpose of these webinars is not about us, it's about each and every single one of you individually within that of the industry. And we really bring as much energy, as much actionable insights to help not only set the stage, but also take these actionable insights, whether you're responsible for that of your security company's marketing, or whether you're working with a third-party agency, or you've got members of your team that's managing that. The goal here is for us to have a lot of actionable insights. And with that said, while we're waiting for everyone, we're going to get started here in about 30 seconds. Before we get started, I'm not sharing my screen yet, but if someone in the chat can just reconfirm that, in fact, you can hear me, that would be greatly appreciated. Wonderful, wonderful. Thank you. I do see everyone saying yes. On a quick side note, thanks for the reminder. So like, for example, Kalia said to everyone, yes. And there's another individual that said to host and panelists. So, and a number of others that have said yes. So as a reminder, in the chat, because we'd like for today to be very interactive, if you can, just as a reminder, if you send a chat to host and panelist, I will do the best I can to remember not to state your name. However, if you share if you send something to everyone, then feel free, just keep in mind, I may reference you by name. So with that said, let's go ahead and get started. I see more people are coming in, but I want to be respectful of everyone's time. Today, we're going to be talking about email marketing, and let me just make sure. Okay, one last time, if I can just have someone in the chat just reconfirm that in fact you can see my screen. Just want to make sure we've got the correct screen that is showing here, if that makes sense. That would be greatly appreciated. Okay, perfect. So you can see the beyond the inbox. Okay. All right, one moment. Let me just get one additional thing up and running here really quickly, and then we will go ahead and officially get started. Okay. All right, so once again, today we're talking about beyond the inbox, and we're talking about specifically email marketing strategies that are incredibly helpful in 2025 and beyond. And there's been a lot of changes over these last 12 months. I can't believe it's been 12 months since we've last sent things. If you have, just as a reminder, if you've got any questions, any things that you'd like clarification, please add them to the chat, or you can also add them to that of the Q&A section as well. And we'll go ahead and address that as quickly as we're able to. A big thanks, and we'll speak about them very briefly, to that of our sponsors, Alula and To Recognize, for helping to make this possible. And with that said, it was interesting. Really quickly, I'll be very brief about this, but I recently, over the last like 30 days, I've had one or two individuals that have stated, Dave, I know you do marketing your company does marketing for the industry, but it's not very evident as to exactly what you do, who you work with, and in the industry, and how you help. So I just wanted to quickly point this out. I mean, first of all, we are very proud members of the following organizations. As far as I'm concerned, we are much better off as an industry when our associations are flourishing. So I would highly encourage you to join that of your state/local as well as national organizations, and not just that, give back by volunteering some of your time and things in that regard. In terms of us, it's all about that current level of success. And in terms of the groups that we serve, we've got two programs. We've got our AMP, or Accelerated Marketing Program, whereas we work with a nationwide network of alarm dealers, integrators, security guard/patrol companies, as well as the fire alarm companies. And then we also work with that of the manufacturers or vendors/service providers that help to support the channel. In terms of the actual services that we do really quickly, and as I mentioned, I'm just going to go through this really briefly. Obviously, if you're watching this on demand, feel free to pause this. You can go through this stuff in great detail, but anything from like, and by the way, the list goes on and on from here, but I just wanted to share at a high level. We do help with website development, Google Ads, pay-per-click, email marketing, social ads, search engine optimization, content marketing, organic social media posting, video production, photography. By the way, one of the things that's not commonly known is here in my office, we've got a merch/swag print shop here. So we do a lot of things. I mean, including, I know it's hard to see me, but including things like this, all of the screen print embroidery, large format printing, etc. All that stuff we physically do here. In terms of our AMP program, keep in mind, it's all about the current level of success. So what we mean by that is we don't just analyze one group at a time, we're analyzing multiple groups at a time. And the whole point here is when groups get started off with us, they're getting started off with that current level of success. I'll move on from there. One of the other thing is in the chat, if I can ask for some help here. So first of all, every single member of the team here works incredibly hard. One of the very thankless jobs is done by Isabella. In the chat, if you can type a 1 in the chat, if you've received an email or a call or a text message from Isabella, let's give her a little bit of love here. And I do see, awesome, thank you, thank you, thank you. And I do see a number of individuals, mostly that are sending it directly to me, to host and panelist. But a big thanks to Isabella. So Isabella is who assists that of me specifically with reconfirming some of the appointments that I have, as well as that of webinars and things in that regard. And I thought it just would be nice just to share a little bit about her. Isabella, thank you very, very much. And I do see here someone that says have not received comms, but looking forward. I won't reference you by name because you said to host and panelist. And awesome. Yes. So someone else said, yes, Isabella is great. And by the way, I won't reference you by name, but I agree. Yeah, most individuals are set. I think host and panelists are the default. So thank you all very, very much. And Isabella, just know there's a lot of ones that are coming here to host and panelist. All right. Really quickly, not going to spend too much time on me. If we're not connected on LinkedIn, please connect with me on LinkedIn. I'd love to keep this conversation going. I've been very blessed to speak at the industry's biggest events, including that of ISC West. And we'll actually have another one to add here shortly as well. Speaking of ISC West, if you're going to ISC West, please type in the chat ISC West, because I look forward to seeing you there. I just typed in that of to everyone ISC West. We will have a booth there. We'd love for you to come by our booth. It'll be all the way as you're walking in the main show floor. It'll be all the way on the left-hand side. It's like 3 or 4 booths up, all the way on the left-hand side. And also, I believe this is Monday, so don't hold me to this, but Monday, March 30th, Monday, March 31st. And Eric, I see that you've raised your hand. If you can you send me a direct message? So if you find my name in all of the participants, send me a direct message if you don't want everyone else to know what your question is. And if you're okay with it, you can just send it to everyone. That would be great. Awesome. And I do appreciate everyone saying ISC. I look forward to seeing each and every single one of my friends and, of course, making new ones. But I'd love for you, once again, on March 31st from 1:15 to 2:15, we'll be talking about lights, camera leads. I'd love to see each and every single one of you there at ISC West in my session. I believe it's on Monday afternoon. One last quick thing, and we're just about done with out of housekeeping things. We're going to get into the content here momentarily. We will be attending that of the SNDA National Conference, which is the national conference of Sonatrol integrators and security companies throughout the country, April 10th through 13th. And whereas it was last month, we talked about AI and security, there's a few things that have changed since then. And I'm going to be live doing a recap as well as introducing some new information. So if you're going to be present, I would love to see you there. I'd love for you to be in this conference. The good news is we're going to physically be able to do this in person like that of the ISC West conference. So awesome, awesome, awesome. And yes, Kaylee, I look forward to meeting you in person. Perfect. I'm just okay, because most people are typing to host and panelists. I want to be respectful. Okay. So with that said, a quick thanks to that of our sponsors. And once again, I'll be very, very brief. A big thanks to our good friends at Alula. And keep in mind that their success is, or I should say, there we go. Your success is their mission. My Oh, geez. Oh, boy. I feel like I'm fired now for that one. Your success is their mission. And I'll tell you what, look, all jokes aside, having that of all of the hardware technology platform and the services that we provide is the backbone. Obviously, we're in the RMR business. And being able to deploy that of security systems, fire alarm systems, communications, all those things is really key and critical. And working with a technology partner, whereas you can have the end-to-end solution, there's a lot of value to that. And keep in mind, from Alula's perspective, they've got simplified operations. They're very cost effective. They're very future ready in terms of their technology. And I'll just really quickly, once again, read from Dan Wagner, General Manager at Atlantic Security. Connect Plus has literally changed our game as we go out to the market. It's the single most innovative product I've ever seen in the last 30 plus years that I've been in the security industry. Once again, if you can show some love to that of our good friends at Alula, we'd appreciate that. The QR code will take you to that of to their website. And if you would let them know that your good friends at SD Marketing sent you, I'd greatly appreciate that. And to our second, and to that of our second sponsor, a big thanks to that of our newest sponsor, that of Recognize. If you're not familiar with Recognize, actually, type a 1 in the chat if you're familiar with Recognize, and type number 2 in the chat if you're not. I'll just really quickly state this. I mean, if you look at that of Recognize, and by the way, this QR code here will take you to learn more about that of, and I do see a number of 1s and 2s here. And by the way, I really appreciate everyone being honest in here. I do see a lot of individuals on both everyone as well as that of host and panelists. So thank you, thank you, thank you. What I will say about Recognize is look at Recognize as being like oh gosh, I hope our good friends at Recognize don't give me a hard time for saying this, but look at it as being like VideoFi 2.0 or 3.0. And really, what Recognize is all about is it's an entire end-to-end security solution that's AI-based, and it's more so wireless outdoor intrusion detection system that has AI visual verification. And I got to tell you, in our experience, where we're seeing our industry going, and I believe, I know that's not the purpose of today's meeting, but like I think that we as an industry are continuing to change, whereas whether it's the visual elements or that of video is going to be the mainstay for that of each and every single security solution that's deployed. And I believe it's just a matter of time. Once again, I won't get too much in the weeds here. Our good friends that Recognize will be at ISC West along with that of Alula. We'd love for you to stop by their booth. And one of the things that I would greatly appreciate, because once again, there's absolutely no cost to these webinars, is whether you reach out to them or whether you see them at ISC West, if you can let them know, give them a big thanks for their sponsorship for that of our webinars, I would greatly appreciated, or I would greatly appreciate that. So really quickly, we've got just 3 short questions. And as you know, for those of you that have been on these before, you know that we like to have these interactive discussions. I'm going to actually partake with this as well. So keep in mind, in terms of these, one sec here, there we go. So how would you describe your current email marketing performance? Is it hitting the mark? Room for improvement? We're on track, but room for improvement, inconsistent, or needs a major overhaul? And if you can just help me to start adding some of your thoughts here, that would be great. And the one thing that I'll just really quickly state, so the way that you can access this is you can go to slido.com, enter the number 6891211, or you can use the QR code and you can quickly answer this. The reason why it's really important for each of us to answer this honestly is I'd like for you to see what your answer is, and then how does that relate to that of, how does that relate to how your peers are? So I see here, most of this, of course, is room for improvement. We're on track, but we can use a tune-up. I think that's being honest and that's fair. I do see here number 2 is inconsistent. I got to tell you, remember, methodical and steady marketing wins the race, including that of email. I'm going to leave this up for another 3-4 seconds, and we'll move on to the next question really quickly. And we'll try and get through this because we've got a lot of great information to cover here. Okay, so the next question is, what aspect of email marketing do you want to master in 2025? And keep in mind, on the page that you're on with your phone, it'll automatically update to this. So is it advanced segmentation, engaging content creation, effective automation, or data-driven analytics? What is most important for you to master in that of 2025? And we'll have a few of us that are answering this as well. So we'll give this just another moment or so. And it's interesting as these numbers are toggling. Okay, so analytics, first of all, clearly there should be a fifth. I purposely did not add a fifth. That's all of the above, because the answer to this should be all of the above. But it's interesting to see as to where we are. So advanced segmentation and engaging content creation is neck and neck. Ironically, these are things we're going to be discussing. All right, so let's give this 3, 2, 1. We'll go on to the final question. So what's your biggest challenge in email marketing today, right? Is it creating compelling content, building a quality email list, improving open rates, or is it analyzing campaign performance? We'll give everyone just a moment to answer these as well. And I'll tell you what, there's an argument to be made for each of these. Well, we're giving this another 5, 10 seconds, and then we're going to move on to the actual prepared content. I can see once again, all of these, once again, there could be a fifth, which is all of the above. Although I appreciate everyone being honest. And what I would like for everyone to do is, as you've answered this, take a look as to what your peers and how do you relate to that of security companies? Because I suspect we've got individuals, not just most of us are going to be here in the countries. I'm taking a look at everyone that's live, and thank you once again. I mean, I do see a few individuals that are from out of the country that I know, but most individuals are from here locally and domestic. Okay. All right. Awesome. Thank you very much. I really, really appreciate everyone's engagement and interactivity. Okay. All right. So with that said, in terms of what we're going to cover today, we're going to talk about the new email marketing landscape for that of 2025 and beyond. We'll talk about building the security industry power list, crafting messages that convert, leveraging AI and automation, and we'll talk about measuring what matters most. Okay, so first things first, keep in mind, I get asked all the time, Dave, what is the magic bullet? Like, what is the marketing magic bullet? What's the number one thing I should do? And it's omnipresence. There is no magic bullet. But I'll tell you what, email is one of the key components, one of the key ingredients to that of your marketing. It's the backbone of that of security companies' growth. In terms of why, right? So there's unmatched ROI and engagement. So like, for example, according to Campaign Monitor, email marketing still remains one of the most effective channels. And what I mean by that is in terms of generating an ROI for every $42, for every dollar that's invested, there's $42 ROI according to Campaign Monitor. And here's part of the reason why is because keep in mind, when it comes to email marketing, and especially if presuming that you've got the right list and you've got the key decision makers within those lists, it's an opportunity directly into their inbox. Now, obviously, part of the challenge is you don't want to be in that naughty list, which is delete, 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 if that makes sense. We want to make sure that that we're being consumed live or consumed shortly thereafter. It's also an opportunity to really, it is essential, and it's a huge opportunity to really build trust and loyalty. Remember, for those of you that have been in our webinars before, you'll notice that I'm talking about that of, how do I say this? Like, you'll notice I talk about know, like, and trustability. And it's all about that tipping point to, how do I say this? It's all about that tipping point to make sure that we are putting ourselves in a position to build that relationship, build that brand trust and loyalty. Because remember, it is all about building relationships. And keep in mind, there are measurable metrics that are able to help paint the picture in terms of that of your sales growth and individuals that you've got in the pipeline, especially on the B2B basis, whereas that, when we've got commercial end users, or if we're on the vendor side working with that of the channel, whereas the sales cycle is very long, a lot of these KPIs or this data and analytics can help to paint that picture, if that makes sense. So when it comes to email marketing, keep in mind, it is so important. So many things, like we take into consideration AI. AI is moving a mile a second. Marketing is moving a mile a second. And keep in mind, it's so important for us to keep up with the times and to make sure that we're adapting with that of the dynamic market. Remember, some of the things that worked 2, 5, 10 plus years ago, these are not the same things that are working today. Now, obviously, being tried and true in terms of delivering value, that is always going to be the case. But keep in mind, remember, our customers, our subscribers, they have the attention span that's less than that of a goldfish. And it's key and critical to make sure that we have the right audience and we're providing them with the information that's going to be valuable to them. In terms of a couple of things that have changed over this last 12 months, AI-driven like the rise of AI is just, I'm telling you, it's one of these Nike swooshes, one of the hockey curves where we're like this, and it's not stopping anytime soon. There's real-time data and analytics, and dependent upon the email platform that you work with or platforms, as well as the CRMs that you work with, it allows you to take advantage of some of these things. If you didn't watch the AI webinar that we conducted this past week, it's live on our website. Please make sure you take time to watch that. You can watch it in like 1.25 speed to get through a little more quickly. But keep in mind, remember, it is all a matter of like what's important to like end user one is not necessarily important to end user two. And that's why segmenting is really, really important. And when you take into consideration, when you leverage some of these key components in terms of automation, segmentation, having the right content, some of the right groups, it can help to boost engagement by, and sometimes up to 35% or even greater in some sectors. The other thing is, leave it to marketers to screw things up because email marketing is so widely used. There are more and more rules and regulations and things. Obviously, there's been CAN-SPAM compliance since I think over 20, 30 years. But there's some new regulatory things that have come about from Google, Yahoo, and some of the others in terms of anti-spam policies. So like it is a requirement, and there will be some things in the checklist, by the way, that we're going to discuss here towards the end as well that will help you. But there are some mandatory email authentication and spam thresholds. For example, you've got to make sure that we're keeping our spam to 0.3 or below, which means if you send 1,000 emails, that means 3 spam or less. Otherwise, you're going to be in big trouble, which means it's going to negatively impact that of your deliverability. We've got to make sure that we're focused on that of our sender reputation. So let's talk about that of the right platform to choose. Keep in mind, there are dozens, if not hundreds of these groups. A few of, excuse me, a few of the top are going to be that of HubSpot. HubSpot is going to be pretty robust. Some of the simpler ones to work with are going to be like a MailChimp, that of Constant Contact, Active Campaign, and Get Response. But keep in mind, you've got to choose the right platform. First of all, do not, okay, I know that some of us do like, we just add the list and we do BCC to everyone. If you're doing that with things that you know you're not going to get yourself in trouble with, that's okay. But when you've got lists that are hundreds or thousands or tens of thousands, do not do that because you can quickly get yourself on the blacklist. Like, do not do that. And keep in mind, for the most part, like the MailChimp and the Constant Contacts of the world, these are going to be the lower cost providers. And it's a monthly subscription for each of these based on the number of subscribers that you have. I touched on that of segmentation and things in that regard. And keep in mind, it is so key and critical to make sure that we build the list so it's not just one database with customers, prospects, and maybe the prospects are resi, maybe they're commercial, not tagged by vertical market. Because keep in mind, you may have some messages that are geared towards all, and that's okay to broadcast to everyone. On the other hand, you may have some messages that are specific. Let's just say, for example, let's say dealerships could be like RV, marine, as well as auto dealerships. Like the needs of them versus that of healthcare facilities are going to be very, very different. And if we don't have things properly segmented so that we have prospects and then customers, and by the way, with customers, I don't have this in the bullets, but keep in mind, if you ideally know who's resi, who's commercial, and like bonus tip, if we know, keep in mind, remember, the dirty word in our industry is what? It is attrition. And as we layer services, and I'm not going to call out names, but I've got many friends here that can speak to this, that are live on today's meeting. When we layer services, that lowers the attrition because we're delivering more value. Our customers are more reliant on us. And then what happens is, we're also, being that we're delivering more value, we can generate more integration revenue as well as more recurring monthly revenue. Obviously, RMR is the basis of it. So I cannot stress enough, please, 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 always begin with the end in mind and make sure that we have proper segmentation. If you'd like to speak more in detail about this, because I can literally spend 15, 20 minutes on this in best practices, feel free to reach out to myself or to Isabella. We can schedule a time to discuss this more in detail. In terms of, let's talk about, because I get asked all the time, what are the best ways to build out of your list? I'm going to talk about 6 ways really, really quickly. So keep in mind, through your existing customers, by the way, each of us, of course, 5, 10 years ago, most of us, if not all of us, were sending or we're billing via the old snail mail way, sending out invoices. with that of the business automation software platforms, and there are many of them that are out there. Many of us are using them now. Keep in mind, we've got email addresses for that of our customers. We've got, make sure that you're getting email address at the time of sale. It's a requirement, of course, for a lot of the modern systems and things in that regard, but make sure that that's the case. Keep in mind lost customers, past customers that haven't, used services in the last 6+ months, or even existing customers, because we can layer services. And we know that, let's just say, these customers are only working with security, but let's say we're working with video surveillance, access control, video monitoring, fire and life safety. We can talk to them about some of these other, other solutions that we provide and things in that regard. The other thing is we can buy lists. So these are a few, by the way, I get, gosh, I would say 2 to 3, if not more, every single day of individuals, and especially being that we're ISC West, we're literally days away from ISC West. It is just tremendous. First of all, do not work with groups that say, xyz@gmail.com. Work with third-party credible groups. These 4 are credible groups. I would recommend some over the other. However, keep in mind with these groups like Data Axle, Exact Data, Coldlytics, and ZoomInfo. ZoomInfo is going to be the most expensive. ZoomInfo is also going to ask you to have them manage some of your marketing. Data Axle is shifting towards that way as well. But if you don't have a list, look, shop in your own closet. Good friend of mine, I learned that from him a couple years back at an industry conference in terms of your existing customers, and then get list. Buy list. The other thing is from your website. So you've got, and most individuals now have this in terms of this, but we want to make sure that we have that of clear call to actions, on your website, whether it's forms or whether it's pop-ups and things in that regard. You want to limit the pop-ups because they can negatively impact your SEO slightly, but keep those things in mind. You want to make sure you're creating resources. So create content-rich resources, things that are going to be super useful and helpful for that of your prospects in terms of lead magnet or data market or research. Keep in mind, your customers are viewing you as being that of the security liaison within that of your area. And the knowledge that you possess, because other resources you can do is like tips and tricks. And honestly, even just with that of your smartphone and a $5, $10, $15 tripod, create tips and tricks of things that are going to be super helpful for that of your audience. The other thing is promotions, giveaways, and discounts. I'm not insinuating, there's a race to the bottom in terms of price, and I'm not insinuating to be be known as a low-cost provider. But look, we've got later in the year we've got Black Friday, we've got various holidays. Have promotions, be fun, be social, do things that are outside the box, do things that other security companies aren't doing, and provide that of some incentives for individuals to come to us. Events, as we travel to local trade shows, farmers markets, flea markets, things in that regard, conduct webinars, do local events. And keep in mind, if you take into consideration that of your competitors in the area, how many of them are doing trade shows, webinars, and local events? I'll bet you it's less than what you'd consider. Be where your customers are, whether they're resi or commercial end users. In terms of some email design principles, a couple of things to take into consideration. And I know I'm not showing the entire email here, but these are our good friends at iForce and Bridgepoint Advisors. Keep in mind, we want to make sure that we've got a nice graphical header. I know I did not include that for our good friends. And by the way, for those of us, a big congratulations to my good friends, Kelly Bond, Jason Grilly, and Steve Rubin for recently launching that of Bridgepoint Advisors. In this email, there's an animated GIF, so this actually animates. I just have a JPEG of this, but a big, they just recently announced that of that, and I'm really excited for them and the next phase of their careers and where things are going in terms of. So if you're in need of on the M&A front, please reach out to my good friends as well. And from the iForce perspective, keep in mind, we've got this nice header graphic. We've got the nice branding here. That of a snippet of the article. And then as you click through, you can learn to read for. And as you scroll lower on this, there are other clear call to action. So we want to make sure that there's a simple, clean design. We don't want emails that are like a long marathon or what have you, because remember, we've got the attention span that's less than that of a goldfish. We want to minimize so that we only have links that are going to be necessary and proper, and keep things really, really simple. Obviously, it goes without saying, not to get too much in the weeds here, but you want to make sure that the branding elements match that of the website, social media, any and all other marketing things in that regard. In terms of writing engaging content, we want to make sure as I'd mentioned before, remember, presuming we've got segmented lists, we want to have segmented content that's going to be for each user type. We want to make sure that we're avoiding spam words or phrases in content. I'll give you some examples of that in just a moment. In terms of some of the examples, so let's talk about educational, for example. So we can create how-to guides. So like, as an example, how to test your fire alarm system, how to change a battery, how to do this, how to do that, how to contact your monitoring center, how to do this. Like, remember, this is great content because you want to be perceived, once again, as to someone that your customers know, like, and trust. These are simple 10, 15, 30-second, 60-second videos. I cannot stress this enough. You don't need, I mean, look, we are blessed here. I've got many members of our team here that do professional front-end video production, but you don't need that. Remember, raw is real. Leverage that of the tools and devices that we have. And remember, perfection is the enemy of getting things done. Another thing to take into consideration is that of, excuse me, safety tips. You know, an example of this is like, what are the top 5 home security tips for the holidays? Some industry updates, like some of the latest trends in whether it's home security, whether it's business security, whether it could be for the, what's, state of access control for the healthcare market in, I'm making this up, in Houston as an example. Explainer videos or infographics. In these videos, I touch base on this already, but remember, do not take for granted that the things that each of us, the knowledge that we possess, our customers, our prospects, they do not know the same things that we do. And take those things into consideration, and that can be great content. And remember, as you create a video, that could be a social media post. That could be a small little blog or a blogette. These could be the page posts that are positioned on that of your Google business profile, things in that regard. The next type of content is promotional content. So like, for example, I used iForce, which is a Beckler company. I just referenced that of, them, and they provide remote guarding, which is a specialized type of video monitoring. So let's say that this is one of the things that you're offering. This is one of the ways for you to differentiate that of your security company versus others. So this is where it could be a promotional. Perhaps you have some type of incentive, that's a limited time, gives them a reason to want to reach out to you today or immediately, if that makes sense. Special offers and discounts. So like, for example, when you're communicating with your existing customers, you can talk about having some kind of incentive to layer services, whether it's a camera, whether it's a video camera, video doorbell camera. It could be a smart plug. It could be many, many things. It could be that of a water sensors, things in that regard. We want to talk about showcase customer success stories. Remember, success begets more success. And your customers are really looking to, they're looking to us, and we want to share the benefits of that of our offerings. We also, one of the other things is invitations to schedule that of a free security evaluation. Remember, one of the things that, and I'm guilty of this myself sometimes. Sometimes all we have to do is ask, and ask for them to reach out to you, ask for them to see as to whether you can help them and learn more and provide them with that consultative approach. We want to also focus on content that builds trust. So like, for example, we've got, I don't remember off the top of my head exactly when this is due, but, the SDM Top 100, SDM Magazine will have their annual Top 100 award. So obviously 2024 list is out right now. But, as this becomes the case, or you have any national recognition, talk about that. And by the way, it's not limited to that of the security industry. It could be within that of some of the local chapters in your, when I say like the, not BBB, but like the, some of the local networking groups that you belong to, or chambers of commerce, things in that regard. Create that of, and you can work with that of your technology partners to create that of like annual security reports, like where are some of the trends, some of the forecasts, work with some of the magazines and things in that regard, and use these things to position you as that of that security liaison, if that makes sense. Also, compliance and industry standards, like how do we adhere to like national fire safety standards, things in that regard, or national, or when fire prevention month, which I believe is in October, if my memory serves me correct. And then that the use case or customer case studies that are detailed problem-solving scenarios. I was asked a question about subject lines. And keep in mind, in terms of subject lines, what we want to do, and let me just take a quick. Okay. Awesome. Jason, you're very welcome. And you also are very welcome. Kelly as well. And I appreciate both of you spending time with us today. So in terms of subject lines, we want to make sure that we have clarity and conciseness. Here's what, remember, I don't remember off the top of my head exactly what the character constraints are, but you're limited in terms of the character. So you don't want to have this super long subject line because it's going to be cut off. And what's most important needs to be in that of the beginning. Remember, brevity is key. We want to have things personalized because if we're just too general, well, then it's like blah, blah, blah. Because remember, there's three big factors as to how individuals are going to be opening up that of your email. Number one is who is it being sent? What is the historical content that's been sent? And then what's the subject line? Those are going to be factors that are going to determine as to whether your email gets in that naughty list, delete, 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 or whether it gets saved or whether it gets opened right away. And once again, getting back here, we want to make sure that we're avoiding spam triggers. Like we don't want to put all caps. We don't want to just say free. We don't want to have all these exclamation points. This could be a turnoff for some users, but it's not just about the users. It is the email platforms. I'm going to actually show you a tool here. So get ready to get your phones out in just a moment because I'm going to show you a free tool to be able to test out the emails that you send out. And to get to get some feedback on them. The other thing is you always want to be testing and optimizing. Keep in mind when I say an A/B test, what I mean by that is we want to make sure that we have two subject lines and you split test to see as to which one potentially has more, what has more open rate, more engagement, etc. When it comes to, one of the other things taken into consideration is there's email for that of customer retention. And in terms of retention and delivering more value to your customers, you want to make sure you're providing them with updates and newsletters with newsworthy information. You want to have personalized check-ins, educational content, super, super important. In terms of exclusive offers that are exclusively available to your customers, those are things that you want to make sure that you reference. Because remember, your existing customer in many cases is your best prospect. You also want to provide feedback and surveys. I'm not sure if he's on today, but one of my good friends, Kirk McDowell, that's part of what his core offerings is providing feedback surveys. It's really important to learn from that of your customers so you can grow from that and help you to continue to grow your business. You want to make sure that you have re-engagement campaigns. Once again, things in that regard. So here's what I'd like for you to do is scan this QR code. You can also visit mail-tester.com and save this one. I'm going to show you an example of this. So this allows you to test out of the spamminess of your email. So what happens is you go through the process, and what you do is you will forward a copy of your email to the email address that it asks for, and then within seconds, it'll give you a score. And in this particular case, from the spammy perspective, it'll give you a 10 out of 10. So I'd love for you, as we keep this conversation going, I'd love for you to share with me what is your spamminess score. But this is really where it shows this visual element with that of that particular tool. So it gauges this based on the various key factors in terms of subject line, the links, whether links are working, whether you're blacklisted, broken links, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So keep in mind, one of the other factors in terms of some of the big changes that have recently happened is automation or drip campaigns. Obviously, drip campaigns have been around for a while. Automation has been around for a while. But in terms of these tools, especially with the AI, things are progressing very, very quickly. For those of you that are not familiar with like a drip campaign, so or like automation, this is basically, if then. So if this happens, that if this occurs, that will happen. Meaning like email campaigns can be automatically triggered based on certain criteria. So like, for example, let's say someone opts in because they download a lead magnet, you create a list of 5 or 10 or 20 emails in a sequence, they could automatically be dripped out or sent out, things in that regard. From the automation, not to get too deep in the weeds here, but once again, presuming someone, let's say, downloads a guide, they register for a webinar, like certain things can occur on an automated basis. And by the way, this is where AI comes into place, is replacing that of some of these repetitive tasks, so you're not having to always do them manually. In terms of that of the A/B, and I touched on this briefly, so I'll be really quick about this. But it's A/B testing. You can A/B test many factors, And some of these tools, you know, with the email marketing platform tools that I've mentioned earlier, they allow for different aspects of the email A/B testing. One of the easy things that I would recommend is split testing that of the subject lines, because it's just, once again, very easy to test. But you can also test, as you see here in this graphic, you can split test some of the content as well. Obviously, you've got to open the email in order for that to be the case. That's why split testing that of the subject lines. And by the way, you don't want to get super fancy and try and split test 4 or 5 or 10 different examples. Start with 2. Keep those things very, very clear. In terms of some of the subject lines, so this is you know, for one of the campaigns that we ran. And we ran these 2 different subject lines in terms of don't miss out on SD marketings. And obviously that's just part of the subject line, or stay connected with SD marketing and then the rest of the subject line. And long story short is, with this particular campaign, one with the split test got 25.1% open rate. The other one got 23.2. So what happens is, it's in this particular case, the way things typically work is, let's just say you have a database of 1,000. I'm just making this number up so we don't need a calculator. It will do something. Don't hold these numbers to me verbatim, but it'll send out like 50 to 100 of subject line 1, 50 to 100 of subject line 2. Those numbers are going to be exactly the same. It'll run that and give it a little bit of time to get some of these open rates, get some of the data from it. And then what'll happen is, once it knows which one is the winner, it'll automatically send the balance of the emails to that of the winner, which in fact will increase that of the overall open rate and click rate and things in that regard. So keep those things in mind. In terms of some of the key metrics to track, so these are really, really important, because remember, what does not get measured or what does not get tracked, you're not going to be able to make improvements on that. So you want to make sure that you're monitoring. One of the most important ones is the open rate, because if the email does not get opened, then nothing else matters, just so you know. So this is the most important metric. Bounce rate. So this is going to be like, if a email is undeliverable for any reasons, or could be like, there's what's referred, not to get too much in the weeds, but there's soft and hard bounces. So basically you could have a bad email address, you could have an undeliverable email address, things in that regard. So you want to measure that. For emails that are undeliverable because they're bad email addresses, you definitely want to purge those or remove those, so it's not negatively impacting your numbers. Because remember, all of these numbers matter, not just from what they matter from the email platform perspective in terms of overall deliverability and things in that regard. The CTR click-through rate. So once you open and you click on something that you want to engage, this is really important. And we want to make sure that these emails are very, very engaging. And that's why, not, you know, once again, like, I'm not going to go back to the slide, but you could see there in that iForce, a Beckler company email, you'll see there, obviously in the, you know, in all the emails, there are call to actions and things in that regard. They're purposely with contrasted colors, so your eyes are naturally, you know, your eyes and your mouse are naturally attracted to those to make it easy to click. But those things are really, really important. You want to take into consideration what's your unsubscribe rate. Obviously, what's your overall conversion rate to lead, and then spam complaints. And as I'd mentioned a little earlier, keep in mind, you want to make sure that the overall spam is at 0.3 or below in terms of some of those metrics. Here's an example. Just keep in mind from one of the emails that we had sent out. So we had a 99.1 successful delivery rate. In this particular case, we had a much better open rate of 42%. We had the click-through rate of nearly 14.5, which is great. We had a slight hard bounce. We had a slight unsubscribe, and the good news is we had 0 spam. I will say this, as a reminder, keep in mind, every single email that you send, do not just say, come buy for me, come buy for me, come buy for me, come buy for me. Because then what's going to happen is it's going to be a turnoff, and you're going to have these things. The unsubscribe and the spam rates are going to go up. And that's why it's so important to be known, liked, and trusted, and to be associated with good, positive things, as well as be, you know, as well as be known as that of a security company that delivers value. Because remember, most of your customers, most of your prospects are out of market. They're not actively searching for what you do. But when they matriculate from out of market to in market, we want them to go to who they know, like, and trust, which is us. And that's why this is a very important piece of the puzzle with that. In terms of some of the key trends, keep in mind, the lines are being blurred between that of marketing channels. Also, personalization goes beyond that of just hi, insert first name. If, for example, when an email goes out, hi, David, whether it's in the subject line or whether it's to start that of the email. We want to make sure that we have content that's interactive, that is conducive to being engaged with. And the other thing to take into consideration is we want to use UGC or user-generated content. So like, for example, many of us, most of us, if not all of us, are working with that of generating reviews, because a lot of our customers, you know, with the groups that I speak with, a lot of their business comes from word of mouth and referrals and that direct outreach. And keep in mind, it is so important to engage that and to solicit that of these reviews and things in that regard. And as that happens, you can leverage some of that or use that to bridge to be able to get that of a mini use case or a case study, because there are going to be many other prospects or customers that will, how do I say this, that will be able to resonate with that and things in that regard. So want to make sure that you're leveraging user-generated content, including that of the reviews, case studies, et cetera, et cetera. So let's talk just for a minute or two about Google. So this occurred sometime last year, I believe at the beginning of the year, if my memory serves me correct, but Google has that of an anti-spam policy. And so it's newer than that of the overall CAN-SPAM. It's much more stringent than that of the CAN-SPAM policy that was signed back, I think, when Bush was president many, many years ago. Here's the thing. And I want you all to take this very, very seriously. If these things that I'm about to talk about, if you're not doing these, or if you are not working with a third-party tool that's doing this, Google and others will block your emails. And it's that serious. You know, keep in mind, if some of the emails are sent without these new guidelines, it's going to reject. And what's going to happen is your emails are going to land in that of spam from that of the Google inbox and some of the other email platforms perspective. So let's talk just for a moment. By the way, there are links in here. If you would like these links, Isabella, I believe you're on here. Can you in the chat put your email address, or put my email, put your email address, excuse me, in the chat, so that individuals that want these links, we will send an email after today's meeting with that of the links. So if you wouldn't mind, Isabella, putting your email address in there, that would be great. Okay, so let's talk about how to fix it just for a moment or two. So we need to make sure it's, some of these things, by the way, may get a little technical. I'll try and keep these in layman's terms as possible. Once again, if you'd like to have a separate discussion about this, reach out to Isabella or myself, and we can talk about these things a little bit more in depth, and we can talk about your particular situation directly. So you want to make sure that you're adding your domain authentication to your email by working with your marketing team or your IT team. As I'd mentioned, and I can't stress this enough, you've got to make sure that your spam rate's 0.3 or below. Now, by the way, for those of us, because we have many groups that we work with, including ourselves, that send more than 5,000 emails per day, there is additional domain authentication that should be added. The other thing is, you must also include a one-click unsubscribe to all of your marketing emails. Now, the good news is, most of the third-party email platforms help with the lion's share of this, but some of these things you've got to go through some special things, as I just referenced. We also have some technical guides. This would be a guide, technical guidelines, excuse me. If you want help with this, we can send, actually, sorry, let me click back. We can send this over to you so that you can send this to your IT team. We have email authentication, a step-by-step on how to handle the domain authentication part. Once again, good to send to that of your IT or your marketing team. If you want, like, for example, with MailChimp or with Constant Contact, we have some specific things as to how to address this directly with them. Let me take a look at that. Okay, awesome. Thank you, Isabella. I appreciate you sending this to everyone so that they can send some notes. And we can send these to you individually. One of the other things is we have just a 2025 bulk email sender requirements checklist. And keep in mind, with this, we are talking about that of, with this, it talks about some of your requirements if you're sending things out yourself, although keep in mind, we don't want to be doing those things unless it's just for small groups of individuals. And then once again, most of the credible third-party email platforms are doing this, but there are some additional things that you need to do as well. And once again, you've got Isabella's info. If you'd like this PDF as well, we can send this over to you as well. Let me see here. By the way, I know we've got just a few more minutes and we're just about to wrap things up. But if anybody has any questions, let me know and I would be happy to address those with you at this time. Give me just a sec. I'm just taking a look at a couple of other quick things here. Just a moment. Okay. All right. So as we're wrapping up today, just as we're wrapping up today, I'd like to just introduce the next webinar masterclass that we will be. I'd like to introduce the next webinar masterclass that we'll be conducting, and that's going to be the Security Professionals Playbook: Winning Strategies for In-Person and Virtual Events. We're going to be talking about, so ironically, this is coming up literally right before our industry's biggest event, which is that of ISC West. And keep in mind, this will be, because we've already started the prep work for this. And we're going to be taking a deep dive into live events for security companies, virtual events, and even networking. This one is going to be a great one. It's going to be very, very timely. I definitely would encourage anyone that's on the vendor side to participate on this one as well. This one's going to really there's going to be a lot of actionable insights. It's going to take place on March 25th at 10 a.m. Pacific time, or 1 o'clock. This QR code will take you directly to being able to this will take you directly to being able to register specifically for this. Let's see here. Okay, so I'm gonna stop sharing my screen here for just a moment, and I do see a question. And let's actually, sorry about the issue with that of my camera. I think I've had my camera on a little too long this morning. I'll get this back up and running. Okay, so Cyril Ryan had asked if we're using lists, how do we make sure that we are not flagged as spam? How can we still meet the 0.3 requirement? Okay, so Cyril, that's a really, really good question. In terms of how we do this, number one is warm your list up. So number one, there's no like magic bullet. It's methodical and steady marketing wins the race. Number one, warm your list up. So instead of there are programs where instead of let's say if you've got a list of 5,000, don't just send an email that's like, hey, come by for me out of the gate to a cold list. Send information that's warming them up. Give value. Remember, it's like, for example, imagine you and I are meeting at an industry event. And if I were to come up to you and say, Cyril, and I hope, by the way, I'm pronouncing your name correctly. Imagine if I come up to you and say, hi, Cyril, I'm David with SD Marketing. Tell me about your marketing. Oh, we can help you with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Like, you may say, Dave's a nice guy, but like, wait a minute, like he's coming on a little strong here. As opposed to me coming to you and asking about yourself, or me saying, Cyril, I've got a free guide with some marketing things. Can I share this with you? In our particular case, it's like, hey, we want to give tips, tricks, information, things that are going to be helpful and useful. Look, you cannot stop reality. There will be individuals that, no matter how kind you are going to click that spam button. The key here is you don't want to be sending emails 5, 7 times a week. We don't want to be just coming guns a-blazing out of the gate. We want to be delivering value. We want to keep things short and simple. We don't want to have a bait and switch, whereas like our subject line is saying one thing, the content is different. We also want to warm up the list, meaning we're sending it to a few individuals at a time and not just broadcasting it out of the gate. So I hope that that answers your question. Let's see here. Eric says, let's see here. Okay, we have an average open rate of about 45%. And Cyril, you are very, very welcome. And I hope once again I was pronouncing your name correctly. Okay, so once again, Eric asks, we have an average open rate of 45% with a CTR of 10 to 15%. However, our lead generation is very low. We've tried multiple landing pages. Oh, wonderful. Glad I have the right, sorry, one sec. This keeps, okay. So we've tried multiple landing pages. What would you suggest? Okay, so Eric, I'm going to address this as directly as I can, although I'd love to, how do I say this? I'd love to perhaps have a deeper dive with you directly to take a look at some of your landing pages and provide some feedback. Okay, first of all, having an open rate of 45% is a good thing. Having a CTR of 10 to 50, these are great numbers. What Eric is talking about is the ultimate conversion rate to lead is not very high. Now, remember, I had mentioned a few minutes ago about how the lines are being blurred between that of marketing channels and sales channels. And remember, with ourselves and with our customers, how many times did we just go through, we saw an ad and we just filled out a form and then we spoke with them, we did business? I would say that's fewer and fewer and fewer. It's mostly like, I saw you on TV. I heard you on the radio. I saw a billboard. I saw a couple of your yard signs. I saw some of your vehicles. I've consumed 10 of your emails. I went to 2 of your webinars. I've spoken with 2 of your individuals. I'm purposely exaggerating here, but my point being here is it's that omni-channel approach. Remember, Eric, part of our goal here obviously is to drive leads. You know, when I have conversations with security companies, I always reinforce the fact that there's 2 primary objectives: to build the brand and drive inbound leads. Driving inbound leads, that is key and critical. That's very straightforward. Obviously, that's what we're talking about here. But the building your brand is really important, because keep in mind, especially for those of us that have a 3-month, 6-month, 12-month plus sales cycle, we want to make sure that we're staying top of mind, if that makes sense. And that's where these emails can have a huge impact. Now, by the way, you may have tracking information on your email, which is where you're tracking URLs, which is where you're tracking that, Eric, of the lead gen. But are you tracking? Sometimes it's not easy to track this. How many of your inbound phone calls have consumed your emails and things in that regard? So I would like to take, Eric, if you're open to it, if you can reach out to Isabella and we can schedule a time to discuss this a little bit more in detail. I'd like to take a look at your landing pages, take a look at some of your emails. I can provide you some friendly advice in terms of things that we know in terms of our current level of success. But I would continue to, in the interim, to continue to split test, and do not evaluate this solely on that of lead gen, but it's how, because remember, building your brand also increases that of brand searches and things in that regard, which these are good things. These are a good thing for SEO and for other related things as well. Let's see here. I'm not going to reference you by name, but thoughts on newer email platforms like Beehive, Substack, Flowdesk, Ghost, etc. Okay, so I'm not familiar with all of these, and I have to remember not to state your name because you sent that to host and panelist. I will say this. There are hundreds and hundreds of email platforms that are out there. And which is the right one to use? The right one to use is the one that you are using consistently. There are going to be, most of these email platforms some of them will have advanced AI features. Obviously, you take into consideration like a HubSpot, Marketo, Pardot, things in this regard, some of the higher end ones. They will do a lot of things. They're more than just an email platform. But in terms of, okay, so the follow-up from that is from a deliverability standpoint. Okay, so from a deliverability standpoint, I don't want to misspeak because I don't have the answers to this on this. I will say there is a group by the name of instantly.ai that has very good warm-up sequences, and it's more step-by-step. Now, keep in mind, they're going to be talking about, and that's once again, instantly.ai. And they're speaking about, having very bare bones to that of your emails and things in that regard, having a very methodical warm-up sequence, making sure that you're doing additional scrubbing with that of your list, things in that regard. The big thing, keep in mind, deliverability will be part of the platform, but it's also that of the reputation of the domain that you're using, its longevity, whether you've had any spam complaints in the past, many, many, many other factors. So, okay, I think the question is, what was that website? So instantly, so like instantly.ai. you can take a look at that. If that's the question that was just asked from Carrie. Thank you, Judy. Appreciate that for adding that. Okay, so Cyril also asks, if we're using lists, how do we make sure that, oh, I'm sorry, that was the question that was already asked, excuse me. So answer one, okay, done. Okay, so Cyril also asks, does MailChimp help with A/B testing? And can we use MailChimp even for lists? And I don't understand what we need to do with warming up lists. Okay, so it's a multi-part question. Okay, in terms of the A/B testing, so MailChimp does in fact do certain aspects of the A/B testing. If my memory serves me correct with MailChimp, there are multiple services, meaning meaning there's multiple levels to its service. So I believe that the middle tier, I believe there's 2 or 3 tiers with MailChimp in terms of the advanced features that they provide. I believe if my memory serves me correct, my team would know this, but the middle tier and the upper end tier are going to have split testing as part of the overall service. There's a slightly additional fee for that. I think that it definitely makes sense. There are, in fact, third-party. I don't believe that MailChimp directly does this, although there are third-party email tools/platforms that will help you specifically, and their sole purpose is for warming up. So you upload your list of 1,000, and it sends emails in small batches. There are email platforms that have that come in. I don't believe MailChimp does that. It's possible that they do, so please don't hold me to that. But there are, in fact, third-party email apps that do utilize this directly. So I hope that helps. And if you want to do a Google search, or if you want, Cyril, if you can send a note to Isabella or myself, I can get you a list offline because I don't have them top of mind. Or you can Google search that, that as well. So I know that we are, let's see here. Okay. So I know that we are just at the top of the hour. I want to be very respectful of everyone's time. If anyone has any additional questions that we can address, feel free to enter them in the chat. But I do want to give a big thanks. I also want to give a big thanks to Hadia on our team. She and I were literally working up until 5 minutes before today's session to have some of the slides updated. So Hadia, thank you so much. I believe you're on right now. So, but a big thanks to each and every single one of you that are watching this live and that will be watching this on demand. As I'd mentioned out of the gate, we put a lot of effort into these, and these are meant for you. I look forward to seeing you at some upcoming events. We will have our next webinar, once again, that's going to come up before ISC West. I think it's the week after. So really, really appreciate everyone's time. And until next time, make it a great day. Thank you so much, everyone.